I had a miscarriage, and my parents said at least now I could focus on my career. So I cut them off, but they started following me, saying I owed them grandkids. So I went nuclear and did this. Throwaway for obvious reasons. I, female, 32, need advice on dealing with my parents who have gone completely insane after my miscarriage. For context, my husband Anthony, male 34, and I have been trying to have a baby for almost 3 years now. It's been a journey, to put it mildly. We've done 2 failed rounds of IVF that basically cleaned out our savings. Those of you who've been through it know how ridiculously expensive it is, and it's been emotionally draining in ways I never could have imagined before going through it. Some background that's important. I grew up with parents, mom female 64, dad male 67, who are both super high-achieving professionals. My mom's a corporate executive, and my dad's a cardiothoracic surgeon. Growing up, everything was about achievement and success. I remember getting a 96 on a math test in 8th grade, and my dad's first question was, "What did you miss?" Not "good job" or anything positive. And when I got into my state university with a partial scholarship, my mom literally said, "Well, I guess that's better than nothing," because it wasn't an Ivy League. I actually did end up doing pretty well for myself. I'm a senior marketing director at a decent-sized firm, but honestly, nothing has ever been enough for them. They're always pushing for more. My sister Madison, female, 29, somehow figured out how to manage their expectations better than me, even though she chose a less prestigious career path. I've always been jealous of how she handles them, to be honest. Anyway, Anthony is seriously the most amazing guy I've ever met. He's been really supportive through all of this. He's a high school physics teacher and he loves it. But my parents, they make these little comments all the time about how he could be doing so much more with his intelligence, or asking if he's considered administration to advance his career. Or my personal favorite, does the school district offer good benefits since the salary must be challenging? Side note, we're actually doing fine financially. Yes, the IVF wiped out a lot of our savings, but we own our condo and live comfortably. Not everyone needs to be making surgeon money to be successful, Mom. So after 2 failed IVF rounds and years of trying, I actually got pregnant naturally. We were shocked and so happy. We waited until the 12-week mark to tell anyone because we were paranoid after everything we'd been through. I really thought my parents would finally be proud of me for something that wasn't work-related. I really thought they'd be excited about being grandparents. We told them over dinner at their house. My mom's first reaction was to ask about my maternity leave plans and if this would affect my chances at the VP position. That might be opening up next year. Not "congratulations" or "we're so happy for you." Nope. Just immediately to how it would impact my career. I should have known then, I guess. Then, well, everything fell apart. I woke up at like 3 a.m. about a week later with these horrible cramps. Anthony rushed me to the ER. The doctor did an ultrasound and told me there was no heartbeat. I just collapsed emotionally. Anthony was holding my hand and crying too. I asked if it was my fault somehow. The doctor told me it wasn't, but part of me still wonders. The drive home was so quiet. We just sat there not saying anything. When we got home, we just held each other and cried until morning. It was the worst night of my life. I didn't want to talk to anyone for a couple days, but I finally called my parents to tell them what happened. And God, I still can't believe what they said. My mom's actual response was that at least now I could focus on my career without distraction. And then my dad added that children would only hold me back right now anyway. I was so shocked I couldn't even respond. I just hung up. Anthony found me sobbing on the bathroom floor. He wanted to call them back and scream at them, but I just couldn't deal with any more conflict that day. After about a week of processing, I sent them a text saying I needed space and wouldn't be talking to them for a while. That's when things got crazy. They started calling constantly, like 5 to 6 times a day, leaving these angry voicemails about how I'm being immature and disrespectful and how I can't just cut them out because I'm emotional. Then they showed up at my workplace, my actual office, created this whole scene in the lobby. My coworker Jen, not her real name, came to get me saying, your parents are downstairs and your mom is getting pretty loud. I was so embarrassed I wanted to die. But the worst was when they ambushed me in the parking lot after work last week. I was walking to my car and suddenly they were just there, waiting by my car. My mom came toward me with her arms out like she wanted a hug, but I backed away and told them they needed to respect my boundaries. My dad said they were worried about my mental health, which is such BS. I tried to explain calmly that I just needed space to grieve, and that's when my mom just changed. She started shouting that I owe them grandchildren, and my dad jumped in saying they've invested too much in me to be childless. Their words, not mine. I was in shock. Like a week before they were saying children would hold me back, and now suddenly they're demanding grandchildren. A security guard came over asking if everything was okay, thank God, and they finally left. But my mom literally called back, "This isn't over," as they were walking away. Who does that? Now they're telling everyone in our extended family that I'm having some kind of breakdown, and I'm getting all these concerned calls from aunts and cousins. I've literally spotted their car following me to doctor appointments. Just routine follow-ups after the miscarriage, nothing concerning. They somehow know my schedule, which is terrifying, because I definitely haven't told them where I'll be. Anthony thinks we should go to the police, but I don't know. They're my parents. That feels so extreme. But at the same time, I'm scared about what they might do next. I've barely slept in days and I jump every time my phone rings. This can't be normal behavior, right? Am I overreacting? What would you do in my situation? Edit. Wow, I did not expect this to blow up overnight. Thanks for all the supportive comments. To answer some common questions, no, my parents have never been diagnosed with any mental health issues that I know of, but they've always been super controlling, just never this bad. Yes, Anthony has been amazingly supportive through all of this. He actually wanted to confront them directly, but I was worried that would make things worse. For those asking about my sister Madison, she knows what's happening, but has been kind of quiet about it. She still lives in the same city as my parents and has always been better at managing their craziness than me. Edit 2. A lot of people are asking if there were red flags before. Looking back, there were definitely signs that my parents had unhealthy expectations. Like when I got engaged to Anthony, my mom's first question was whether we'd signed a prenup. We hadn't and weren't planning to. And they, coincidentally, showed up at our house viewing when we were buying our condo to point out all the problems with it. I just never thought they'd go this far. Edit 3. To the person asking if I've considered a restraining order, yes, it's crossed my mind, especially after the work incident, but I'm worried about the fallout with the rest of the family. Plus, isn't that a really serious step to take against your own parents? I honestly don't know what the right move is anymore. Now for the first update. So it's been about 3 weeks since my last post, and first of all, thank you to everyone who commented. I honestly didn't expect that many responses, and it really helped to know I wasn't overreacting, which is something I constantly worry about, to be honest. Where do I even start? I guess with the work thing, because that was the first major escalation. So remember how my parents showed up at my workplace before? Well, apparently that wasn't enough, because they actually contacted my boss, like directly emailed him saying they were concerned about my mental health, following my personal tragedy, and suggesting I might need professional intervention. My boss, who thank God is actually a decent human being, called me into his office looking super uncomfortable and showed me the email. I had to sit there and explain to my boss about my miscarriage and my parents' inappropriate behavior, which was literally the last conversation I ever wanted to have with my employer. HR got involved, and I had to have this whole meeting explaining that no, I'm not having a breakdown, and yes, my parents are basically stalking me. So now everyone at work knows about my miscarriage when I wasn't emotionally ready to share that. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Really appreciate that. But wait, it gets worse. My parents started sending baby items to our apartment. I'm talking clothes, toys, books, and even a freaking crib. Like a full-size assembled crib that was delivered by 2 guys who had to bring it upstairs. Each package comes with these little notes saying stuff like, "For our future grandchild," or "When you're ready to try again." Anthony wanted to donate everything, but I literally can't even bear to touch any of it, so it's all just piling up in our spare bedroom. I literally have to walk past that room every day. And yes, I know we should probably just get rid of it all, but I can't bring myself to deal with it right now. Then I discovered something that honestly made me feel physically sick. My parents have been tracking my location for years through this family sharing app I completely forgot about. They made me download it when I first moved out of their house after college because they insisted it was for safety reasons, since I was living alone in the city. That was like 10 years ago, and I literally forgot it was even on my phone. I only found out because I was trying to figure out how they knew where to find me so often, and Anthony suggested checking my phone for tracking apps. Sure enough, there it was, happily sending my every movement to my parents for the past decade. I feel so violated knowing they've been monitoring me like this for years without my knowledge. But the absolute worst was when they showed up during our anniversary dinner last week. Anthony and I were trying to have one normal evening out since everything happened. Just one night to try to feel like ourselves again. We were at this Italian place we love. Nothing fancy, just this little family place with amazing pasta. And we were actually having an okay time. I even laughed at one of Anthony's jokes, which felt like the first time I'd laughed in forever. And then my parents just walked in, like they somehow knew exactly where we were. Now I know it was the tracking app. My mom walked right up to our table, pretending to be surprised, claiming they were just in the neighborhood. Anthony immediately stood up. He's normally super chill, but he was pissed, and my dad told him to calm down, saying they were just saying hello. I asked them directly how they knew where to find us, and my mom completely ignored the question. Instead, she asked when we were trying again for a baby, right there, in the middle of a restaurant, 3 weeks after my miscarriage. I told her that was completely inappropriate and to please leave us alone. My dad then had the nerve to say I was wasting precious fertility years and that time is running out. I'm 32, not 45. Thanks for that extra pressure on top of everything else. People at other tables were staring at us by this point, and the manager came over asking if everything was okay. My mom tried to play it off, telling him I was their troubled daughter who was being dramatic, but I explained they were harassing us. The manager asked them to leave. He was super nice to us, thankfully, but they waited in the parking lot until the staff had to escort us to our car. We basically had a security detail to escape my own parents. How is this my actual life right now? My sister Madison finally got involved and tried to mediate. She arranged this meeting at a coffee shop thinking she could help resolve things, but that just made everything so much worse because my parents revealed they've been telling all their friends and country club people that I'm already pregnant again. Like, they're literally living in a fantasy world. They even made a grandparent registry online with my information so their friends can buy them gifts for their upcoming grandchild. I'm not making this up. I wish I was. The weirdest part is when Madison explained that this is all because my parents are obsessed with competing with their country club friends who all have grandchildren they constantly brag about. It reminded me of when I was 9 and hated piano lessons, but my mom made me continue for years because the Hendersons' daughter plays beautifully and everyone loves her recitals. They've literally been using me as a status symbol my entire life, and I never fully realized it until now. But the final straw was when they showed up at my therapy appointment. Like they somehow found out when and where I was seeing my therapist, probably from that damn tracking app, and demanded to speak to her about my mental state. Anthony had driven me there and was waiting in the car, and when he saw them, he came in and told them to leave me alone. My dad actually shoved him, like physically pushed Anthony hard enough that he stumbled backwards. That was it for me. I went straight from therapy to file for a temporary restraining order. I had documentation of everything. The emails to my boss, photos of all the baby stuff, screenshots of messages, everything. The judge granted it immediately, which honestly surprised me, though maybe it shouldn't have considering how insane their behavior has been. I have such conflicted feelings about taking legal action against my own parents. Like, despite everything, I still remember good times from childhood. Family vacations where we actually had fun, my dad teaching me to ride a bike, my mom helping me get ready for prom. I still find myself wanting their approval even now, which is so messed up. But Anthony reminded me that good memories don't excuse current abusive behavior, and he's right. The restraining order didn't even stop them. They violated it within days. Left notes on my car saying they wouldn't be denied their rightful grandchildren and that I was being selfish and immature. What the actual hell? I started going through old family emails, looking for more evidence of their pattern of behavior, in case I need it for court, and found some truly shocking stuff. They pressured my college boyfriend Mike to break up with me because he wasn't ambitious enough. He was pre-med, but wanted to be a family doctor rather than a specialist like my dad. The horror. They've apparently been lying about their wealth for years to maintain status with their friends. They're deep in debt, but keep up appearances. And I found these journals from when I was a kid, where they literally documented their progress in shaping me into their idea of success, including things like Jennifer still showing too much interest in art, reduced classes to once monthly to focus on academic subjects. Looking at everything together, I can see this isn't new behavior. It's just a new manifestation of the same controlling pattern they've always had. They've been manipulating me my entire life to fulfill their vision, not mine. I've decided I'm completely done with them. I am completely done with them, and I'm going to end this relationship permanently in a way that ensures they can never contact me again. I have a plan, but I don't want to share details yet in case they somehow find this post, though I've been super careful. Though I'll admit I still check my mom's Facebook every day to see what they're saying about me. I know that's contradictory, but I can't help it. Old habits die hard, I guess. Anyway, thanks for letting me vent. This has been the absolute worst month of my life, but I'm finally seeing clearly and ready to take action. Edit. Wow, so many comments already. To answer some questions. Yes, I've completely deleted the tracking app and checked my phone for any other monitoring software. Anthony actually helped me do a full security audit on all my devices. We also changed all our passwords and set up two-factor authentication on everything. For those asking about the baby items, I know we need to deal with them. Maybe we'll have a friend come over and pack everything up for donation. I just can't handle seeing it all right now. Several people asked about Madison's relationship with our parents. It's complicated. She's always been better at managing them, but she's starting to see how toxic they are too. She told me after the coffee shop meeting that she's rethinking a lot of things about our childhood. Edit 2. Someone asked if my parents have always been this obsessed with status and appearances. Yes. I remember when I was 16 and wanted to go to a school dance with this boy my parents didn't approve of. His dad was only a high school teacher. My mom literally set me up with the son of her boss instead and told me the other boy had canceled when he hadn't. I only found out years later when we reconnected on Facebook and he asked why I stood him up. That's the kind of manipulation I grew up with. Edit 3. A lot of people are asking what my plan is. I can't share details yet for safety reasons, but it involves publicly exposing their behavior in a way they can't ignore or explain away. They care so much about their image and reputation, and that's exactly what I'm going to use against them. And no, I'm not doing anything illegal, just making sure the truth comes out in a way they can't hide from. Edit 4. To the person who suggested therapy for my sister too, I actually mentioned this to Madison yesterday, and she seemed open to it. I think she's starting to realize how much our parents have controlled her life choices as well. She told me something I never knew. Apparently they pressured her to study business in college when she really wanted to pursue art. That explains why she still paints as a hobby, but never considered it as a career, despite being really talented. Now for the second update. So it's been like 2 months since my last update, and I know that's a long time, sorry about that, but so much has happened, and honestly I needed time to process everything before I could even write about it. Also, I was kind of worried my parents might somehow find my posts, even though I've been super careful, paranoid much. Yeah, but with good reason. For those who've been following my story, my parents went crazy after my miscarriage. First telling me it was for the best so I could focus on my career, then doing a complete 180 and demanding grandchildren, stalking me, showing up at my work, my therapy appointments, and even violating a restraining order. Yeah, it's been a lot. I guess I should start with what happened after they violated the temporary restraining order. I remember so many of you commented saying I needed to document everything, and thank God I listened. I started keeping this insanely detailed log of every single thing they did. Timestamps, photos, screenshots of messages, even got security camera footage from my building and my workplace. Anthony, my husband, set up these small security cameras around our apartment too. I felt kind of crazy doing all this against my own parents, but turns out it wasn't an overreaction at all. I consulted with my therapist and this lawyer who specializes in harassment cases. Shout out to the commenters who suggested finding a specialist rather than just any attorney. That was solid advice. The lawyer looked at all my evidence and basically said, "Holy shit," which is not what you want to hear from a professional. We went to court for a permanent restraining order, and oh my freaking God, you guys. The look on my dad's face when the judge ruled against them. He kept trying to leverage his status as this respected surgeon, and the judge was just not having it. My mom was sobbing dramatically the whole time, which was a lot. But the judge saw right through it and granted the permanent order. The lawyer said it was one of the most comprehensive restraining orders she'd seen granted, which is both validating and deeply sad at the same time. But the restraining order was just step one of what I started thinking of as my extreme plan. Dramatic, I know, but it felt appropriate given the situation. Step 2 was sending this massive email to my entire extended family with evidence of what my parents had been doing, because they'd been telling everyone I was having some kind of mental breakdown, and I was sick of getting these concerned calls from relatives who had no idea what was actually happening. I included screenshots, photos, the court documents, everything. I felt bad sharing all this with everyone, but also, they needed to know the truth. The response was mixed. Some relatives were horrified and immediately reached out with support. Others seemed to think I was overreacting or being too harsh. Classic enablers, as many of you pointed out in my last post. But the most interesting response came from my Aunt Cheryl, who I've barely spoken to in years because she and my mom had some falling out I never really understood. She called me out of the blue after getting my email and told me this wasn't the first time my parents had displayed this kind of obsessive behavior. Apparently they did something similar when my cousin didn't invite them to her destination wedding years ago. Like, they showed up anyway and created this huge scene. How did I never know about this? Cheryl said the family had basically been covering for their behavior for decades, which makes me wonder what else I don't know. Oh, and Madison, my sister, finally admitted that our parents have basically controlled her entire life too. They pressured her into getting a business degree when she actually wanted to study art. She's super talented. And they ruined at least 2 of her relationships with guys they didn't think were good enough, including this one guy she was really serious about in college. I had no idea about any of this. We've gotten so much closer through all this chaos, which is like the one good thing to come out of this nightmare. But the real big move, the thing I was most nervous about, was confronting my parents at their country club's annual charity gala. I know that sounds like something out of a movie, but I swear this actually happened, and it was both terrifying and weirdly empowering. I spent like a week rehearsing what I was going to say with my therapist and Anthony. I was so nervous the day of. I literally threw up twice before we even left our apartment. Sorry, Team I. Anthony offered to come with me, but I felt like this was something I needed to do alone. I almost backed out like 5 times on the drive there. When I walked into that ballroom, my heart was pounding. I spotted them immediately. They were with their country club friends, all dressed up and laughing, like they hadn't been terrorizing their daughter for months. My mom went completely pale when she saw me and told me I couldn't be there, which was rich considering how many times they'd shown up places they weren't supposed to be. I smiled, probably looked more like a grimace to be honest, and said hi to everyone, introducing myself to people who didn't know me. My dad tried to pull me away, saying we needed to talk privately, but I refused. I told everyone I was there to clear up some misunderstandings about our family situation. My mom tried to stop me, but I just kept talking. I told everyone about my miscarriage and how my parents had first said it was for the best for my career, but then started demanding grandchildren, stalking me, showing up at my workplace and therapy appointments. My dad tried to say I was emotionally unstable. Shocker. But that's when I showed the court documents with the restraining order. The club president, who had come over during this, asked if these claims were true. The look on his face was something else. My mom started crying, saying I was destroying the family, and I just snapped. I told her their obsession with appearances and grandchildren had already destroyed our relationship years ago. I just hadn't realized it until now. Then I said some things I hadn't planned on saying. I revealed that my parents had been lying about their financial status for years, that they'd gone into significant debt maintaining their country club membership and lifestyle. And then I mentioned my dad's affair that my mom had helped cover up. There were actual gasps from the social circle. Apparently, this was a well-kept secret. Security started heading our way, but several club members were now openly questioning my parents. I left having done what I came to do. And honestly, I felt both vindicated and incredibly sad that it had come to this. I hadn't planned to reveal the affair or their financial issues. Those were things I discovered while going through old emails looking for evidence of their pattern of behavior. But in the moment, I felt like I needed to expose their complete hypocrisy. They've spent my entire life obsessed with appearances while hiding all these secrets. Madison told me later that my parents have been largely left out of their social circle since that night. Apparently, the revelation about the affair hit especially hard because my dad had been having this emotional affair with the wife of another club member. Yikes. The weirdest part of all this is that 3 of my cousins reached out after getting my email to share similar stories of emotional manipulation by my parents. It's like this whole family conspiracy of silence just broke open. How did I never know any of this was happening? My parents did send this threatening legal letter saying they would sue me for defamation, but my lawyer just responded with all the harassment evidence and basically said they should back off or we'd pursue criminal charges for violating the restraining order again. They backed down real quick after that. They've finally stopped attempting contact. Though I occasionally hear updates through Madison or other family members, it's been peaceful, but also strange. Like, they've been such a dominant force in my life for so long that their absence feels weird, even though it's so much healthier. Anthony and I have been attending this support group for pregnancy loss, which has actually been more helpful than I expected. At first, I was super resistant to the idea because I'm not really a share your feelings with strangers person. Thanks for that, Mom and Dad. But it's actually been really healing to talk with other people who've experienced similar losses. I've also started therapy specifically focused on childhood trauma from growing up with my controlling parents. It's been eye-opening to realize how many of my quirks and insecurities are actually direct results of their manipulation. Like, I literally apologize for everything. My therapist pointed out I apologized 12 times in our first session alone. About 4 months after cutting contact, my dad had a minor heart attack. My mom reached out through Madison saying he was asking for me. I sent flowers with a brief note rather than visiting. I know that might sound cold, but maintaining my boundaries felt important, even while offering limited compassion. He recovered fully, by the way. I've established this much healthier relationship with Madison. She's finally started pursuing her interest in art and is taking classes at the local community college. She seems happier than I've ever seen her. She's also been much more limited in her contact with our parents, though she hasn't cut them off completely like I have. And here's the big news that I'm both excited and nervous to share. Anthony and I have decided to begin the adoption process. After a lot of soul-searching and therapy, we realized that building our family this way feels right for us. It's been healing to make this decision on our terms rather than trying to meet my parents' expectations. I sent my parents formal notification of our adoption plans through my lawyer. I included strict conditions they must accept if they ever want any relationship with their future grandchild, including therapy, formal apologies, and acceptance of our parenting decisions without interference. I'm not holding my breath that they'll actually do any of that, but it felt important to make it clear. Looking back on everything that's happened, going all out wasn't about revenge. It was about finally breaking free from these toxic family patterns and creating space for healing on my own terms. I still have complicated feelings about all of it. Guilt, grief, relief, anger, sometimes all in the same day. But for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm making choices based on what I actually want, rather than what I think would make my parents proud. Thanks to everyone who's followed along and offered advice throughout this whole nightmare. Your support genuinely helped me find the courage to stand up for myself. And sorry for the novel-length update. Turns out, when you finally start setting boundaries, you have a lot to say. Edit. Wow, this blew up overnight. Thank you all for the supportive comments. To answer some common questions, yes, I have been tested for anxiety disorders and am working through that in therapy. The constant need for approval and fear of confrontation are apparently classic symptoms of growing up with controlling parents. Not diagnosing them, just repeating what my therapist said. For those asking about my dad's affair, yes, I debated whether to mention it at the country club. In the moment, it felt necessary to show the complete hypocrisy of their obsession with appearances. But I do sometimes wonder if I went too far with that one. Someone asked if I'm worried about my parents trying to interfere with our adoption process. Yes, we've already informed our adoption agency about the situation and the restraining order. They were actually super understanding and have added extra security measures to our file.